Ladies and gentlemen, we are now gathered to induct the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Now, I hope when we induct our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, he won't give us some violent love. After all, I did say that he might have been Loveless, but now no longer will be Loveless because he's now in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But I'm sure he'll give me a pass, hopefully. Or after all, if he doesn't want to give me a pass, he'll make sure my ears bleed with some drum and bass tracks. But I might actually have a surprise for him when it comes to that. But before I induct our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, I want to go back with a quote that kind of in many ways it spoke to what a DJ does, but also in many ways what I feel a wrestler does, and especially our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. The soul of a DJ, or the soul of a wrestler, you might say, is the soul of the house. It sends people to different places that they go into, and they may not bring you with riches, but what they bring you is the sport and the love of wrestling and music, what they bring. And also, with the soul of a DJ, it's those that bring the life of the kingdom that they share and in the ring. I certainly ad-libbed a little bit of that because I wanted to work the wrestling and the music side. But I think that it sort of in many ways amplifies, you might say, after all, he's a part of Amplified Wrestling. And what he's done in his multi-roles as a DJ and a wrestler. But I'd also like to bring up a quote from one of his fans when he was a DJ, which in many ways getting to know our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame over the past couple of months, I feel like it rings true for him inside the ring. I guess maybe you want to call it inside the club at this point, or maybe outside, both. In that he's not like other artists or other wrestlers that you see. He's just a normal guy who does what he has to love and offer and helps make sure people, like his fans, are remembered and talks to him. In many ways, I get asked on what is the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame and why do you do it and just who and what should it all be about? Why does it matter? In many ways, normal people, like our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, who do extraordinary things, whether it's inside the ring, outside the ring, certainly in this case, because he does a lot of things, obviously. We've been interviewed on the radio. We've got touring dates he's done in the past. He's had thousands of views on his Mixcloud page, Reverb Nation, and all that stuff. But the truth is, he is a normal person, but almost all the members of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame in many ways are normal people, but have done many extraordinary things that I feel deserve to be recognized. And I think that in many ways, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame has done that and some. When you think about his journey, he spoke about it here. He didn't start out in the wrestling world. He obviously talked about his relationship with his brother. He talked about obviously his journey and starting out at a different time that most people that come on this platform, well, maybe, I was going to be 15 years old and I was out this place and I knew I was going to be a wrestler. And while he always did want to be a wrestler and he was a wrestling fan, he had a unique journey where he could have just stayed maybe in his own lane or maybe just stayed in the club and been a very successful DJ. Maybe I would have seen him on Mixcloud somewhere, Reverb Nation, looked him up on YouTube. Maybe saw that Prince mix he did with 1,400 plus views, or the Candyman mixes, or all that other stuff that, again, got hundreds and hundreds upon thousands of views. And, when he roamed the streets of Pittsburgh and mentored from the likes of DJ Stabby or also Nick Fury, yes, he could have done those things and stayed and been a highly successful DJ. But you know what? He followed his heart. And you know what? He's not loveless. He's not a man that has violent love. Well, he might want to give Edward James still violent love. I'll get to that, obviously, about how that tag team championship run ended abruptly. But the truth is, he is a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer because he went out there and not only stepped out of his comfort zone, he went out and achieved greatness. And many people in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame have done different things. Many people, some have done it in the soccer world, some have done it in the basketball world, some have done it in pro wrestling, some have done it in the backyard, the underground wrestling, the independent wrestling. All wrestling matters, as I say. But Andrew Loveless is a story that we all should remember, as he was a normal guy who likes to do extraordinary things. He was a normal guy that never forgot where he came from. He was a normal guy that remembered his family and the motivation that said to him that he should try to go in this crazy world of wrestling that we've all gotten a chance to know. And sometimes I even wonder, why do I do it? Well, actually, I know. I like doing it. People say, why are you still on the air? But I like to joke. I'm trying stand-up comedy rather than the wrestling world and being your master of ceremonies. But the point is, Andrew Loveless is a normal guy that went out there and served the people. He went out there and served the people, whether it's in music, whether it's in wrestling, as part of one of the most successful tag teams in the Pennsylvania wrestling circuit over the past few years in Violent Love. It even led to him to be in a main event. He actually wrestled in a main event against Matt Silks, not too long ago. He's even wrestled on many people he's shared a ring with that have gone out there. Most recently, Pitbull, Gary Wolf. We'll talk about APW, obviously Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling. But he's also, as a normal guy, wrestled on shows, whether it was obviously for our most recent show at Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling, or last year for Volunteer Fire Department and all those different things. He's a normal person who used his riches from his knowledge in the world of wrestling and the world of music to make the place around him a better one, and I think a more louder one, because obviously, music, you think about it being loud, and wrestling, the mat and the floor and everything else, and that's what he did. Ewing sarcoma, volunteer fire department. There are many things that Andrew Loveless has done, and I have no doubt that there are many more things I'll talk about here tonight with him. And there is no question that, ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Loveless deserves to be in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and maybe I'm even going to say it, maybe his other thing that he's done, maybe that'll be in the Hall of Fame next, because after all, it is summer coming up and everybody's getting ready for house and drum and bass, and he's had a fascinating story with that, and I'm still going to hold him to that. Maybe we'll see him DJ a show and, get it going, Enterprise and Amplify. The clock is on you guys, obviously, Mr. Hanson and Mr. Kid Mike, so definitely the clock is ticking. Find a way so we can get maybe a drum and bass and an Enterprise and Amplified show, but I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, as your master of ceremonies, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling truly matters, and your voice of all wrestling, the Reverend Tom Bryce. I can go on and on and on about Mr. Andrew Loveless. As a matter of fact, I will go on and on and on about him over the next hour, because I've actually got some stuff that'll almost kind of remind us of the old Rockin' Mankind This Is Your Life segment, because I'm actually going to pull up some things here on the screen that this time I got a chance to do, whereas last time I didn't, because as Mr. Loveless reminded me that, oh boy, you really did your notes tonight. Yes, I did, because I actually didn't do anything today, and I have no excuse. But obviously, I want to make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that we officially get this show on the road, and I want to congratulate Mr. Andrew Loveless and induct him as our 9th member of our 7th class in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame and present him with the lucky number 69. But before I do that, I have to give him that introduction that so many people have gotten, so many of his peers have gotten. Yes, even Chase Wakefield has gotten. He shared a locker room with him, although I don't know if I should mention his name around Mr. Hanson. I'll plead the fifth on that. Mr. Brandon Castelli, I don't know if he's the moral or he rocks hard, and I've certainly given him that introduction. Mr. Judgment, well, Mr. Judgment's Mr. Judgment. Certainly he might be saying, Lord, strike that poor boy down right now, get the show on the road. But it is time to give you an introduction that obviously Kid Mike has gotten, Van Hansen, many of your colleagues in Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling who are in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame have gotten. After all, we are all wrestling matters, and maybe tonight music matters. I might have to explain that. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to formally congratulate our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the be-all, end-all, and certainly tonight, is going to be one of those shows that I can promise you it will be the be-all, end-all on Sportswire Radio. So let's get right to it and formally congratulate Mr. Andrew Loveless, because now I'm just wanting to just keep his speech going on and on and on. And I think he's looking at me like, come on, let's go, let's get over right. But actually, they've been going longer and longer. Well, actually, I did a 17-minute one, the last one. So, but we're not going to go that far because it's already 10 minutes in. Let's give you an introduction because it's time. It's Tuesday night. We're in prime time. So we're Without further ado, I'm not Sportswire. Number one, global sports show, the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He's our 9th member of our 7th class, the 69th member. He is the be-all, end-all. His name is Mr. Andrew Loveless. Congratulations, my friend. You're the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
No, I got to catch my breath.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
You ever get those, by the way, when you were doing the shows, when you were DJ Dirty White Boy, you ever get those kind of intros or somebody introduce you almost like as a hype man? Because I got a message today from somebody randomly and said, you should be a hype man. I was wondering, you're obviously very successful in the clubs. You obviously traveled, about the whole scene in Detroit once upon a time. You ever get those kind of intros from a hype man out there, a big rapper or somebody in the house in electro world?
It's rare when it happens. Like I think over my career it's happened like maybe 3 times.
Okay, because I was wondering, because you actually have been in some big places. I was wondering, yes, we're going to get to wrestling. Obviously, I want to talk a lot about APW. I want to talk about some things you were involved with most recently. But as I ask everybody that's taken part in being into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, I'll start nice and easy tonight, Andrew Loveless, because it's a Tuesday night here on Sportswire. Right? People are like, oh, it's not Friday. I'm not too quite hyped, and I'll say hello to some people as well shortly. But Andrew Loveless, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, maybe also tonight where all music matters, what does it mean to you now to be a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
It's wild. I never thought in a million years I'd be part of any Hall of Fame.
Oh.
Like I just always thought to myself, like, do the things that I love, follow my heart, just let that be. Like, and I never thought in a million years I'd ever win a title or anything like that, or ever make it into anybody's Hall of Fame. And here I am.
It's funny you say about the speech to induct you, and everybody's speech I feel is different here on Sportswire. I had a soccer coach last week, the head of the United States amputee soccer team, and it was more talking about. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I appreciate that. And I obviously get a lot of talk about the women's coach because everybody was like, oh, she's single. And I'm like, let me move away from that one. But obviously, when I did those interviews, or certainly the induction for Coach Facina, in a lot of ways, it was kind of emotions. It was talking about a coach and a mentor and a friend. But I feel like every story is different. And the point is, your story is unique as every other member's. And I think in what was said was from somebody that had purchased your music years ago. And I think it rings true. You're just a normal person that's done extraordinary things. And I think in many ways that exemplifies just about all of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Famers, because I always say, in basketball, they have the Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. In hockey, it's in Toronto, Ontario. Baseball, Cooperstown, New York. Football, it's Canton, Ohio. But here in Sportswire land, we kind of have this Hall of Fame for all backgrounds of wrestling, the backyard, the underground, the pros, the independents. And I feel you fit that to a T, because your background, for a normal guy, some would say on the surface, is pretty extraordinary. You were a successful DJ. You could have kept yourself in that lane, could probably be in the club as we speak. For whatever reason, I'm thinking about 50 Cent in the club right now. I'm sure you didn't mix that one. Probably not one of your favorites. But the point is that you could have stayed in there. Probably, been very successful with that. Maybe made more money in DJing than in wrestling. But you chose to follow your dream. Maybe. Man, who knows? I don't know. Flip a coin and figure it out. But the point is, you followed your heart. You followed your dreams. You thought about your brother. And that's why you're here. And the facts is that you've made a difference, and you've made the lives of others around you better. And I truly think that all the members of our class have done that. And that's why I wanted you to be in the Hall of Fame. And especially since our last conversation, I feel like even though I knew you, now I really know you, because we had a chance to look more in the past and go down memory lane. And I'll explain why that's important in a little while. But I truly wanted you to be here. And I think that you have a story that should be remembered. And that's why I wanted you to be in the Hall of Fame for a number of different reasons. And I wanted to obviously congratulate you. And, that's why I asked you those questions.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that.
I could have stayed with DJing, but I'm not one of those ones that's very complacent. And yeah, I could have. The money's better there than it is in wrestling, but you're right. I got to follow my heart.
You have to. Listen, at the end of the day, you only live once, and for whatever reason, it reminds me of, speaking of music, I know you definitely didn't mix. There's a song called from a group Roxette, and it was Listen to Your Heart. It was a famous song. I think it was in the
track.
Yeah, what the song was. That was the from Pretty Woman. I think that was the Pretty Woman soundtrack, and that was the song. It was Listen to Your Heart. That was kind of like what you did. I'm not going to certainly break into that because people would say, "Okay,
I heard a remix of that song."
Really, I would love to hear. I would love to hear that, because that was a great song, and in a lot of ways you certainly did that. But I'll come back to some of the Hall of Fame stuff, but I always like to talk in the current, because I don't like to go down memory lane on Sportswire, because I hear this all the time. I was telling you this off the air. I feel more and more pressure every day I'm on this platform with my guest to be relevant, to talk about the current events, because everybody's like, I listen to your show and it's different. I had my latest guest yesterday, Jack Spill, was like, your shows are really insightful and thoughtful. That's why I'm going to come to your platform. But speaking of which, Andrew Loveless, I watched you most recently in the ring 2 weeks ago at APW. Help me figure this out here, because you were in the ring with a guy, Asher Zero, which ended in a no contest where...
Yeah.
I want to talk about this, because I could have went any other way to start, but help me understand what happened.
Okay, so my very first meeting with him was back in January. So I had the opportunity to get to wrestle for Asylum Pro Wrestling.
Yes, we were speaking about that off the air, yep.
And so for me, that was one of the companies that's on my bucket list because of my brother's track record. When he was alive, he refereed for them. He refereed a Nia Rose match. Nia Rose.
Yeah, I know Nia Rose, sure.
Yeah, so I knew that if I'm going to do this career, I want to try to follow his path. I want to be able to have that same connection. And then at the end of my journey, I would love to be able to win a proper world title for him. And so, I went there and I just waited and I just went for the seminar, and it was O'Shea Edwards, and I got my first opportunity. And anybody watching this, if you get an opportunity to go to an O'Shea Edwards seminar or anything like that, it's money well worth the investment. I highly recommend it. Like, I went home with so many notes. Like, it's
Really?
insane.
Yeah, we were talking
Yeah.
about that last time you came and about the note taking and how important the seminars were. And so, what was different about this one than prior ones you've been to?
Okay, so this one it helps you more in depth with character development and evolution, match layout, um, as well as your overall workout regimen. Like,
Ooh, good point.
yeah, it was like very crucial and how to be able to connect that character with the audience. So like it was some of the best money that I've ever spent in a seminar. And that's saying a lot because like I've been to a lot of seminars. Then this next show here in April, they had the Pitbull Gary Wolf from ECW.
Oh yeah, I know him. I think we spoke about him even the first time you came in. I spoke about him with Jimmy Controversy because Jimmy Controversy's wrestled Pit.
Oh, I
Well, yeah.
yeah. So like I ended up investing in that, and like the seminar was good. It was educational. Like it helped you more with your overall workout regimen than anything else, and working on fundamentals and polishing all those things up. And then I got the opportunity to wrestle on that show again against Asher Zero, and so we both went out, and the crowd right out of the gate, it was split right down the middle.
Yeah, I
And
noticed it watching the match. It was like weird because you both seemed like the crowd was into you in that little short match. It was kind of funny because sometimes you wondered like who's the clear cut, like either fan favorite or kind of the
yeah,
clear cut villain, and there really wasn't any of that in that match.
no, not at all. Like we both went out there, and like we just kind of tied up and felt each other out. And like from what I remember, I just remember it being just straight back and forth, back and forth. And I think we went like 8 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I just remember like a point where I hit him with a lariat as hard as I could, and we were both down. We recovered, and then like we both hit like four. Like there was four big moves towards the end of the match.
Yeah, it was like the last 2 minutes of the match, if I recall correctly. That like 2 minute frame.
Yeah, I hit him with my air raid crash, and I thought for sure that like I was going to be able to pick up the victory. He kicks out at 2.
Yep.
He comes back, and he gets me with a TKO.
Yep.
And that rocked me, and I kicked out at 2. I barely kicked out.
Yeah, it was like 2 and like it was real close, if I recall.
Yeah, and on that, it was either that or the following move. He hit me with a GTS, and I lost a part of my tongue. Like I took a chunk out of it. I was spitting up blood in the ring.
You lost the tongue?
Yeah, it's still there, but like on the right side, like there was a good chunk missing for a little bit.
Are you gonna remember this match for the rest of your life?
Yeah. I was spitting up blood, and then so like it rocked me, and it gave me Bambi legs in the ring. So like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, so like I'm just like kind of out on my feet, but like on muscle memory, like I just pick myself up. I get
my God.
And I hit the ropes, and I see him down and a little bit gassed. So I hit Moonlight Drive on him, and when I come down, we both hit our heads. Like he hit his head into mine, and it just rocked.
Yeah, you guys were like on the side, not the side of the ring ropes, but sort of near the side of the ring ropes, if I recall. It was kind of more on the left-hand side, right? The left hand kind of.
It was like if you're facing the ring from the crowd point and the aisles on the right side, he was like 3/4 of the way on the right-hand side.
Yep.
And that's where it all went down, and we were both counted down.
Have you had? I've never asked this question. So you've been doing this so. Okay. How about now? Do you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. That's the magic of technology.
Oh yeah, it's
Excuse
out
me.
again.
Oh,
There we go.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this question because I asked this question to a wrestler before. In all the years I'm doing this over 5 years. Have you ever been in an instance in the one that you were in with Asher Zero where you both were basically down for the count and couldn't get up?
That was a first for me. Like I've been pretty gassed at certain points of matches, but like I've always recovered. Usually like little things where like somebody slapped me in the face, like James Ford or something, and it just like fired me up. And like you kind of recover real quick from something like that because it wakes you up when you got a 6'6", 6'7" monster standing over top of you, just slapping you in the face. But no, like that was the first time that we were both pretty gassed.
Is that something that you can prepare for or plan for in a spot like that? I mean, because again, I watch a lot of wrestling. I just thought it was so unique. Match ended where you guys both couldn't get to the count of 10. It's very rare in a wrestling match that you see a kind of a finish like that.
It's one of those things where you kind of rely on cardio to most of it. Others times it's kind of instinct and muscle memory, and you just kind of hope to God that all three fall into place and you can just recover from it. Like other than that, like when you're rocked, you're rocked. Like your body's just like, yep, nope, you're not gonna keep going. Like as much as like your heart drives like, hey, come on, get up, you can do this. You're just laying there, and your body's like, nope, it's not happening, not today.
I want to go back to something you talked about maybe about 5 or 10 minutes ago. And if you want to follow Andrew, there is all his links. I even got some of his music stuff in there, which I'll explain in a little while. But, I was speaking with a wrestler overseas. This was a British wrestler. We were talking about independent wrestling, kind of the state of independent wrestling, whether it's here in America or overseas in the UK. And I said, one of the things that is lacking is kind of either some type of linear flow or storytelling. And you're obviously in a seminar and you're obviously sharing a ring with Pitbull Gary Wolf, and you have this match that maybe in a way can have some type of storyline. Do you think that there'll be some continuation from this? Would you like to see more? Obviously, you go in this seminar, you wrestle it. What do you see going from here with this, with you and Asher Zero?
He tested me to a different level, and any day of the week, I'd like to wrestle him again. Like that kid's gonna be the future of wrestling for sure. Like if anybody gets an opportunity to check him out, he's up around like Buffalo, Rochester area out of
sure. Yeah,
like,
absolutely. I know that area very well, for sure. Okay, so you obviously, maybe we get a chance to run it back. Maybe there's something with that. Let me ask you, going back to Gary Wolf, did he give you any advice in the seminar?
He gave me advice, not mostly there, and more so back in the locker room.
Talk to me about that, because a lot of guys could use it. I have a lot of people that listen to this from different, forms of wrestling. So what advice did he give you, without giving too much away, that he said in the locker room?
All right, so we both talked about like our backgrounds with the Monster Factory and stuff like that. And I asked him, I was like, so when you were there, like, were you around when Danny Cage took over, or was that one of the when it was first up for sale and stuff like that?
Oh, wow.
He told me about how he almost had the opening bid to be able to buy the Monster Factory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he passed on the opportunity. And this was like back when Danny only had like 2 matches under his belt.
Wow. I'm sure he must be regretting that one.
Yeah, you would think.
I would think.
we talked about that. We talked about tape study because one of my friends, he lives here in town. He's a really good referee. He's been doing it for 17 years.
Oh, please, we need more good referees because the whole week on Sportswire, I have been talking about this on different shows, whether it's in the backyard, the underground, or some of the independents. I said we got referees that, for whatever reason, either don't know how to get into position or don't know how to count properly. So please bring your referee and please let him show the other referees from all the companies that come on this platform how to properly do their job. No, seriously, this has been something I have been talking about the last week on Sports. I have been hooting and hollering about it. I must have watched 80 matches this week on Sports because all I do is watch wrestling. And almost every referee was like either they were slow to the count, they weren't at the right finish, they couldn't see. I mean, listen, please, maybe you should do seminars.
Not Richie. Like,
well, tell us why.
This man, he studies everything. He's pretty much my go-to as, like, if I ever had to have an agent, it would be him. I'm thankful for Richie. Like, he was my brother's best friend back in the day when my brother was alive. And so, like, my brother was trying to get me and him to network way back when. So, like, after everything happened, he hit me up, and we both felt in love with, like, our passions of pro wrestling and just sharing stuff. So, like, on a weekly basis, like, we're constantly studying tape, like, all the time. Like, actually, this is my seminar book right here.
Oh, wow.
I make sure everybody that I can autograph it for verification. And then I have sheets upon sheets of notes. So, like,
you were talking about that last time you came on. You went to. I appreciate your notebook, man.
Yeah, so like I'm one of the only ones that shows up at a seminar with a notebook and a pen. Surprisingly, it's weird.
Is that because it's a different generation now? You think?
I don't know if it's that or if they're just kind of afraid to look different. I don't know. Like, for me, like I'd rather, like, you can't always take everything through osmosis. Just right. And, like, it'd be different if you could set up a camera and record the entire seminar, but like a lot of places are very traditional about that. So that's a big no-no. So for me, I would rather sit there in a corner and take notes over and over again.
1,000%. 1,000%. I wonder if it's a generational thing, because if you're in your 20s now, books on handy. Think about it. If you're a certain age now, people don't buy notebooks and sit there and, I remember, I'm old enough to remember, using a notebook for everything. I take a notebook when I worked in politics, and I still do it, but when I would go to places, I would always have my notebook. I'd write all the things I remember, muscle memory. I would just think maybe it's a generational thing. I just don't know.
Like, for me, like, I have three books. Like, there's that one for the notes. This here's my log book of every single match that I've ever had. And then in this here is for my entire organization for the year, between shows, training seminars, just different training spots that I go to. So, like, I make sure I'm well organized for that. Like, this weekend, like, me and Richie, we're already planning a trip. We're bringing Max Steele.
Oh, yeah, I know Max Steele.
Yeah, he's been trying to get back into wrestling, and I'm trying to get him just a little bit of ring time. So we've been traveling down to NWA East there, down at PWX, and logging in ring time on Fridays. So we do that. We'll drive there, drive all the way back, spend $40 in gas, about 2.5 hours one way, and we'll go learn some stuff from some really great teachers like Thomas Mathis. Like, he's a phenomenal chain wrestler.
Yep.
Amazing guy. Like, I can't give that guy enough credit. Like,
I'll tell you what, that's the way you got to learn. And speaking of the logs, Chris Jericho, I think, actually has a book still. He all the matches he's wrestled in his career. I think I heard him say that somewhere on one of his podcasts. So I'm, glad that you were able to do those things. And obviously, again, if by some, actually, I'm going to do you a favor, a good side. I don't know if I'm shooting my shot way too over what I think I know, but I'm going to tell you, if you do see Pitbull Gary Wolf again, you do see him, you're in a seminar with him, you tell him that one of your friends, if you want to call me a friend or an acquaintance, whatever you want to call me, maybe this will help you, Mr. Wolf, is actually friends with a man he's wrestled in the ring. His name's Jimmy Controversy, which, all those guys know who he is. So I promise, if it can do you anything of any sort, I don't know if it'll get you a chuckle from Mr. Wolf. Maybe it'll give you a phone number of Mr. Wolf's. I don't know what it is, but Mr. Wolf has wrestled Mr. Controversy, and Mr. Controversy is obviously a man that has been on this platform on several occasions. He is somebody that is definitely a friend of mine. So if it can help you in any way, maybe get extra advice, extra tutelage, I don't know, maybe extra minutes in the seminar, maybe a discount, I don't know what it is. You just mentioned that Tom Bryce is friends with Jimmy Controversy, and I'm sure Mr. Wolf will have an opinion of the Sergeant Jimmy Controversy, the murder worshiper himself. So you might be the be-all, end-all, but we'll see. And when you come back onto Sportswire, by some chance in the next few months, you run into Mr. Wolf, let me know what Mr. Wolf says and what Mr. Wolf thought about that when I brought that up. I think that we'll have a good laugh, or maybe I will have helped you. Who knows? Maybe that's the beauty of live radio. You just never know.
I'll pass that message along as long as you tell Jimmy that I want to be able to test myself against him one day.
Oh, you do? You know what? I would love, we were talking off the air. You said, well, what are we going to talk about? I said, trust me. Me with a live microphone, this will be lively. Trust me. Last night, we had a guy, Anthony Steele, change into his name and do a 15-minute apology. It wasn't the Justin Timberlake in Timberland version, One Direction apologize. You probably mixed that one in the clubs. No, I promised you this will be something. I will tell you this. You know what? I'm actually going to go even further. You want a match with Jimmy Controversy? I'm going to make sure when we're off the air on Instagram, I'm going to tag Jimmy Controversy, and I'm going to say, you know what, Andrew Loveless, he's a local guy, he's in the PA, New Jersey area. Jimmy Controversy, you're a New Jersey guy, you travel anywhere, everywhere, and after all, you lost control of Pro Wrestling Venom, you got your problems in GTS, you can't go to XPW every week. If you want a match, you got nothing to do. I know you're looking for bookings. I mean, you've talked to me about, and he's always talks to me about bookings all the time. He's always saying, in fact, I'll say it verbatim. He can quote me on this. He said to me, if you know anybody looking for bookings, anywhere I can go to wrestle, he says, you just tell them my information. So you know what? I'm going to make this very simple. I'm going to actually cut the middleman out, because I know how to do that. And I was already told today by one promoter that I'm considered to be the greatest hype man of all time in wrestling. So I want to make it very easy. So Jimmy Controversy, looking for a booking in the next few weeks, next few months. Andrew Loveless, he's looking for bookings. He just learned from a couple of seminars in the past from Pitbull Gary Wolf. Jimmy Controversy, you've been in the ring with Pitbull Gary Wolf. I'm sure we can figure out a place, maybe in the state of Pennsylvania, the state of New Jersey. Is Delaware doing bookings still for wrestling shows? Make it happen, because if you want to see the murder worshiper versus the be-all, end-all, if you want to see a little bit of violent love versus the sergeant, I'm sure we could make that happen. Doesn't even have to be a hardcore match. Doesn't even have to be a death match. It could be a regular match. Who knows? It could be a match. You want to fill it out. You want to flip a coin, last man standing, I quit. I don't know, whatever you want. I mean, because I know, Jimmy Controversy, you're going to listen to this right now, and I know, Jimmy Controversy, that you obviously need to keep yourself occupied after what happened at Pro Wrestling Venom, after what my friends over at Resurrection Wrestling. So you know what? You're in luck tonight, Andrew Loveless. You're a Hall of Famer, but you're in more luck because I know a lot of different people. And Jimmy Controversy, you're going to be on the clock. As a matter of fact, Jimmy Controversy, you owe me an appearance on Sportswire Radio coming up, because your good buddy, Mr. Hardcore, is coming on here at the end of May. So I'm going to certainly see what you have to say on that. But I'm going to say, next time you come on the show, I want you to be on the clock for what happens not only with Hardcore, but also with what Andrew Loveless has said right here tonight, because he's obviously been in a seminar or two with Pitbull Gary Wolf, you've wrestled him. I'm sure we can make it happen. I'm going to certainly hold it to you, Jimmy Controversy, that you come back live on Sportswire Radio and talk about a challenge that has been thrown out there from Mr. Andrew Loveless, who, oh, by the way, is one of the longest reigning tag team champions in the Pennsylvania area. And he just held those tag team championships out there for Enterprise and Amplified Wrestling. So you're on the clock, and there you go, my friend. So I'll make sure Mr. Controversy knows this the minute we're off the air.
Good.
Well, we'll certainly do that here. Now, if you'd like to follow Mr. Loveless, we're going to bring that up here right now because there's a couple of ways you can follow him. First of all, he's on Instagram. He's on TikTok. He's on Facebook. I'm going to fix the TikTok plug in a second. He's also on YouTube. He's also on he probably doesn't want me to bring up Mixcloud, but he is on Mixcloud. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. Check us out 24 hours a day. Did I go out again? How about now? You got me?
We're good.
Okay.
It cuts out again.
Yeah, I'm going to fix my USB. Let me fix the plug. So we're on sportswireradio.org 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Hopefully my USB cable doesn't go out 365 days a year because I got one right behind me, so good news on that. But you also can check us out on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579, and we are here with the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the be-all, end-all, Mr. Andrew Loveless himself. I've got a couple of things I want to present to him. We're going to do that here shortly, but as I'm going to transition to a new USB cable, I also know, Mr. Loveless, you were actually doing a few things in the ring this past weekend that you might want to tell our audience.
Yeah, so this past weekend, I made my return back to PWX, there in McKeesport, for their annual Berg Brawl, which was pretty exciting. I entered at number 20. My goal was to pretty much go there and eliminate my tag team partner. And I didn't get the opportunity because I got cut off by a man by the name of Lestat. Yeah. I thought I had him. Like, Lestat just muscled me right up over before I had the opportunity to get my hands
he had more muscles than Chase Wakefield, man.
20 times more.
I'm sure Mr. Hansen was probably very happy that I just said that. So, but
no, but like Lestat, he's a lot of muscle. He is a big boy. It's like punching a brick wall. With him. Yeah, like I thought I could be able to take out my partner, and the funny thing was, for the first time ever in the history of PWX, inside of the Berg Brawl, the PWX World Championship was on the line.
Oh, wow.
So when I came out, Aaron Connors, who was the current champion at the time, just got eliminated.
Oh,
so at that point, I was like,
up for grabs. It's a total new ball game then.
Yeah, exactly. Like, at that point, the title's vacant. No matter what, at the end of the night, we're going home with a brand new world champion. So I go in, I start targeting my former tag team partner.
Oh, we spoke about that last time on the show, and that's why you're not the tag team champions anymore.
Yeah. So I started getting my hands on him a little bit, and I turned over, and I saw Lestat started coming up onto his feet, and I don't want a man that strong with that size to get the jump on me. So I went over and started trying to get the jump on him. And so when I did that, my partner comes in, cuts me off. They start trying to double team me. The first time they tried to dump me over, I hit desperation, went under the ropes, a couple groin punches, because at that point it's a Royal Rumble. Anything can go. I'll do whatever I got to do for the world title.
Sure.
And I start getting in and start working over, and Lestat cuts me off and dumps me out. Man, I swear to God, if you could have measured the level of heat that was coming off of my body when I went back through that curtain to that locker room, I could have burned down city buildings. I was heated. I was not happy.
Have you felt anything like that before?
No, not to that level of heat. Like It was almost like the equivalent of what a roid rage would have been like. I was like,
somebody cue Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa,
yeah,
Jose Canseco, all those guys way back in the day. Oh boy, oh boy.
yeah. I was pretty heated. Like I had to go upstairs, dump a water bottle on my head. I threw my elbow pads in my gear bag. I was
Oh, so you
swearing
went
like a
Goldberg on
sailor.
us then, where Goldberg used to bang his head on the locker rooms and the lockers, and you went Goldberg on us then. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was swearing like a sailor upstairs. Like people were like, "Oh, what's wrong, Loveless? What's wrong?" They come in, I'm like, "Leave me alone if you know what's good for you." Like it was not pretty. Like it took me 2 days to cool off. Like I was that heated.
Was it because
Like
of the fact you wanted the World Heavyweight Championship?
well, of course, because like it's a golden opportunity at winning a world title and being part of history.
Absolutely.
So why not? But if I could have done that and eliminated my tag partner, I could have killed two birds with one stone.
True.
And then
If I said to you, you would have got Edward James over in the Rumble, would you have at least taken that in solace, or you still wanted that title more than eliminating him?
It's the world title. It's always been about world titles because of my brother. That's the ultimate.
The first time on the show.
Yeah. But to get my hands on him was kind of poetic. And if I could have been able to cost him within the same match as being able to get the opportunity to hold the PWX championship, like that would have been the crowning achievement of my career.
Do you feel like that there's not only unfinished business with your tag team partner from what we spoke about last time on the show, but now in the fact you were eliminated from this big guy Lestat that, you've never seen anything like this before? Is there now unfinished business with two individuals rather than one?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
There at PWX, yes. Absolutely. Like, and I don't care if it's PWX or if it's Amplified. Like, me and him, we got some business that we need to finish.
Well, we want to see Amplified get back out there. I mean, I do
too.
I want to see Amplified return.
Speaking of Amplified, not just him. Like Eric Black is still on my radar. Yes. Like I saw the little video after the last interview we did. Yep. And he's got his eyes on me too. And I hope you're watching, Black. I hope, because one of these days we are going to tie up, and it's going to happen.
Well, what do you want to say direct? You know what? We'll make sure. Listen, you're live, right? So you got the advantage right now. What do you want to say directly to Mr. Black? I'll make sure that he hears this. What do you want to say to him? Go for it.
I respect his work. I do.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a talent.
For sure.
But I think that somewhere in my repertoire that I think I can beat him. I not only do I think, I know in the back of my mind that I have the credentials that I can beat him. And he was a dominant live wire champion.
For sure, absolutely.
And I feel that in my mind that if I can beat him, that should solidify me into a number one contendership spot to be able to challenge Sugar Dan.
Sugar Dan Stovko, a man that was on this platform and a man that obviously in a short amount of time has, done things we spoke about the first time on the platform. So you feel like in a lot of ways, you get one over Mr. Black. Now all of a sudden you're poised to take some gold there.
Yep.
It's always good to have gold, and you've had gold for a long time just now. And you
have
gold back, and you want singles gold now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it concern, though, that you got unfinished business with too many people now? You just talked about right now you want Eric Black. You talked about Mr. James. We still have a lot of unfinished business there. And then you mentioned this guy Lestat. Too many hands in the cookie jar? No.
No. It's just one match at a time.
But you still want that match with James. That match still We spoke
Oh,
about that here in
absolutely.
Sports.
He cost us the longest reign in Amplified history.
Well, let me get to some comments because I'm way behind on comments. I want to say a little. One of my buddies, Mr. Levi McDaniel. Levi is going to be here coming up next Thursday. He's going to be here, part of a slew of talents from the IMF, the Iowa Midwest Federation Wrestling Company. They have a new show coming up, and we're actually going to be supporting it because we're about all wrestling matters. And also, Levi is going to join you in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. And speaking of individuals that heard your comments out there from the great state of Iowa, that is the IMF World Heavyweight Champion, then the DKW World Heavyweight Champion. That is Mr. Soldier GP, the popular heel monster. He says, first of all, good evening, gentlemen. But he says, I know a champ you can't best. And then there was Mr. Omen Black, who also would like to say the same thing. He is the boogeyman of the Midwest. He is the hardcore god. It is kind of, in a way, his show. And the three of us actually sort of partially own a company called the Pride Wrestling Federation, but different conversations for a different time. But
I
they
follow him too.
Oh, you follow Mr. Black. You both have bald head. You both have bald head. You both have.
We're aerodynamically friendly. We're super smooth.
Well, at least you don't have to worry about going to the barber shop.
No, I got a guy for this,
Well,
which actually I DJ with.
Oh, I'm gonna still get to that because I still want to present to you something. Also, Omen, I know a team he doesn't want none of. He's obviously talking about the foundation. They're the foundation, and they've been very successful traveling in different places. So you never say never. But I want to say hello to one of my buddies who's also dabbling in the world of wrestling. He is from the great state of Indiana. I don't know if you've traveled to Indiana for some DJ. There you go. My buddy, Mr. Michael Christian, and he is here. He says, hello, Rev. The bald head is more work than with hair. Is it really more work with a bald head than hair?
It is.
It is.
It's a lot of maintaining.
It is.
Usually you have to shave. I shave this like every 2 days.
Really? It's every 2 days?
Yeah.
I would have thought it like every couple weeks. It's every 2 days.
No. Because you start getting the stubbles and stuff. Like during wintertime, when you wear those beanies, they kind of like gorilla grip onto your head. When you have that stubble,
so no good for the beanies. Then you're not a beanie man.
Oh, I'm a beanie man. Like I'll dress like an Eskimo. Like all you'll see is just straight eyes when it's wintertime.
You made me laugh. I want to tell you why you made me laugh, and these guys will probably appreciate it because they're in the Midwest and I'm in New York, and I can't complain because in New York City we don't have it as bad here. And Mr. Black has a funny
buildings blocking half those winds.
Well, which is about I was about to say, but you did an interview years ago when you were a DJ, and the host was Sunny 106.5. He goes, well, the high is 19 degrees with a low of -9. And I'm saying to myself, -9? I mean, 19 degrees. I mean, maybe you do really dress like an Eskimo in the great state of Pennsylvania. I didn't realize it was that cold out there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thermals are your best friend whenever the lightest little bit of wintertime comes around.
Well, you know what? This is why I'm not moving to the great state of Pennsylvania. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation with somebody today that Pennsylvania was very cold. Somebody down the block from me actually is moving to Pennsylvania. And I was like, well, it might be too cold for me. But you just confirmed that. Mr. Christian wants to say, though, that he wears his beanies roughly 7 months out of the year. Is that the same for you?
No.
Okay. Oh, okay, good.
No, I can't do it. Like, only wintertime for me.
Well, to be fair, in Indiana, they get snow even up to just about now, right, Michael? I think it's pretty almost up until now. That's where you can finally put away the winter coat. Mr. Black would like to say that he does appreciate you following his work, so he obviously gives you some kind words. And all for all, he says, welcome to my show. And not another person from Indiana, Justin Parsley. Speaking of which, you know what? It's time to give you something that I would like to give you here because, you are in the Hall of Fame, and I've been waiting 53 minutes to do this, which I don't know why, but I like to mix up different things. And congratulations, my friend. There you have it. You have a certificate on the wall, and you are officially into our Hall of Fame. And I hope that you will take this as a token of appreciation. I will send you the physical copy when we are off the air. And thank you for all that you do being in the great sport of wrestling. And Mr. Omen Black, who now is also like you in indoor venues. And Mr. Black, I hope you're doing well because I saw a post you made on Facebook yesterday that I hope you're doing well. God, you're the boogeyman of the Midwest. So I don't need you talking the way you were talking on Facebook. I need you to go kick some butt in the ring and go take some names and eat those people for lunch, breakfast, and dinner, maybe with a side of dessert or two. But I enjoyed the days wrestling in -10 weather. Well, that's why you're the hardcore god and the boogeyman of the Midwest. But Mr. Loveless, I wanted to present to you, while I had some more things to present to you, while I present you, this is your life moments here, since I obviously have inducted you into the Hall of Fame. I know people are having a good time right now. We have a lot of people tuned in on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I wanted to also recognize you for some of the things you've done outside of the wrestling world, because I know that people tuning into this also have other interests. They're not just into wrestling. And I wanted to officially nominate you. In fact, I actually wanted to officially nominate Mr. Dirty White Boy, DJ
Hey,
Dirty White Boy, as the official DJ of Sportswire Radio. So when we want to break out into some house and some club and some techno, we have this wrestler that he's made his own music, and it goes like this: C2K Talk Show, tune in, you love it. C2K Talk Wrestling, not so good wrestling experience. Not so much as what he does, but Dirty White Boy, he really does the music that people make the heads nod to and dance. He's got 3,000 plays in a Pittsburgh station somewhere. DJ Stabby, Nick Fury saying, "Why am I doing a bad rap?" But certainly Dirty White Boy, you are the true DJ of Sportswire Radio. C2K Talk Show. Maybe we should put that to the side, because his beats really don't sound like they're hard, heavy, and maybe a little in between, kind of like his in-ring work. Andrew Loveless, I'll take it away, because nobody wants to hear me do some pre-K nursery rhymes. But yeah, there you have it, Andrew. Obviously, DJ Dirty White Boy, you were very successful, and I think we are kind of lacking some music on Sportswire, and I think we should nominate you as the official DJ of Sportswire Radio, because now I'm reminded by Omen Black and Soldier GP that we have another member of our Hall of Fame, Justin Parsley, who's actually a DJ at Kendall's Tavern in Indiana. But I'm actually going to go on the record saying this, that you're more of a professional DJ, with all due respect to Mr. Parsley. I love Justin Parsley, but I think he's a DJ where he basically puts some tunes on and basically puts on, I don't know, classic rock or some type of vinyl, whereas you
on
actually have
Spotify, stuff like that.
yeah, you've got a real setup. You've got professional turntables. You've got mixing equipment. You've toured. You've been on the scene with some big names out there in the Northeast and the Midwest. You've had thousands of people hear your shows. You've obviously been on the radio in Pennsylvania. So I'm going to take it that you're more of a pro, let's just say. Not only are you a pro inside the ring, you've been trained obviously at the Monster Factory. You've obviously been trained by Homicide, but you really are a successful DJ, which is why I wanted to go the extra mile and officially acknowledge you as the DJ of Sportswire Radio. So maybe you'll slip into
Thank
some
you,
drum
Tom.
and bass, some house hardcore, and we'll forget about me rapping or this guy C2K, who's apparently a 32-year veteran. I don't know how he says he's a 32-year veteran. Apparently, it sounds like he's got less than 32 matches in the ring, but I'm not going to go there. He's a big fan of the show. He's in my Hall of Fame, but obviously I'm not going to rap again, because we really are not rappers. Andrew Loveless, he's the true DJ of Sportswire Radio, and he's definitely not a dirty white boy, because he will certainly punch you in the mouth if you said that he's a dirty white boy. But there you go here. But hopefully you take this as a sign of appreciation. And also, as I said here, am I saying Parsley's a fraud as a DJ? No, I'm not saying he's a fraud as a DJ. What I'm saying, soldiers, he's a different kind of DJ. Andrew,
There's different styles of DJing.
and I'm glad that you brought this up, because I have a segue, which is going to show, well, I love Justin Parsley, and Justin Parsley is a 2-time Hall of Famer of ours. You're more of a DJ.
Yeah, there's different scales of DJing. Let me lay that out. Like there's a top 40 style that like designs and plays off like a media playlist and caters to requests and stuff like that. And then there's more of the New York oriented and Chicago and Detroit style DJ, like the turntable specialist. Yeah, that bottom picture there, if you look, the white shirt with me with the bigger heavyset guy. That's AK 1200.
With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. We done the falsified, we done 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 falsified, we done.
Tom, the picture underneath the AK 1200 one, that set there was filmed at an Indian burial ground. That was one of the original Base Harvest sets. Which is like one of my most favorite places to play. Down in Aliquippa, PA. Like, oh, it's amazing. Where they have the big dub festival.
The DJ Dirty White Boy Mix on Sportzwire Radio, where all music matters. Tune in live anytime on the DJ Dirty White Boy Mix Cloud Team. C2K, where you at, C2K? C2K, you the big rapper, where you at right now? Join the mix, join the party, because DJ Dirty White Boy is live, and he's playing your favorites from house, bass, rock, and join the party. Go! If you want to follow Mr. Loveless and you want more of your favorite, way to get in touch with this man. Whoa, whoa, big time moving here. Whoa, whoa, let's go. Join the flow. We got DJ, Dirty White Boy. Join the mix. He'll play your favorite. Anytime, anywhere. PA, WI, anywhere in between. He's got the mix. He's got the hotness. Check him out. He ain't no Loveless. He's the be-all end-all. Make sure you join the party, everybody. Make sure to follow this platform. Follow this man. He is the DJ Dirty White Boy. 60K. Go away. I don't know about that, but make sure we get the real music here. This is where it lives. No one's stuck out there. Only just don't let you guys. We are all music matters, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow this man. All the links here first. Ladies first. Absolutely. Ladies is the PC voice. Hey, ladies. Oh! All right, we'll pause it for a few minutes. So
That's okay.
What do you think? How do you like your music playing here live?
I love it.
Well, good. Yeah, I
I love that moment when anybody can enjoy my music.
What is that feeling like when you're out there and you had that adrenaline rush? I know I asked you before, but you have people here tuned in, and we'll come back to the music in a few minutes. Plus, I want to obviously share some more things. But, I mean, just in terms of that rush you had when you were successful out in the club days, what was that like?
it's really cool because like when you're sitting there, you're like, I always challenge myself. Like whenever I build a set, I've always done it differently. I've always done it like how Wolfgang Gardner used to do his stuff. And I like, while everybody was enjoying other kind of artists, I always looked into his kind of work. And he always tried to take the equivalent of like from point A to point B and creating a story through track selection and creating that energy and that pulse and the ups and downs and the breakdowns and climbing back up and telling a story without ever having to grab a microphone and spelling it out to somebody.
And I'm going to share something else here on the screen, which, you actually did some other things for, which is the YouTube channel for you, which I want people to subscribe to. And I've subscribed to it, and I hope everybody else does the same. And I'm going to play something here that was actually one of your more successful moments in your career, and which goes right here.
Yeah.
Tuesday Night Mix with DJ Dirty White Boy. Get your groove on. Get in the trance. Tuesday night on Sportzwire Radio.
I remember debuting this track up in Beaver Falls.
Wow. Okay, what happened there?
We were playing up in Beaver Falls, and it was a Halloween party. So I did like an old school Venom kind of thing, like what the Prince Devitt used to do in New Japan. So like I did that whole deal, and like where the jawline opens up, it looks like you're reaching out trying to eat people. And so like I had a couple things in my back pocket of what I wanted to debut, and this was one of them.
And I want to say hello to one of our rappers. And the party never is without CTK. The party can never stop without the legendary CTK. So feel that vibe, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on the Tuesday Night Mix with DJ Dirty White Boy live on Sportzwire Radio. Check out DJ Dirty White Boy stuff on YouTube. Check out Andrew Loveless on Facebook. Join the party. Grab your drink and grab your groove because we are live. And take it away. Let's get into that vibe.
Then you gotta feel the vibe.
Join that party. Yes, tell your friends. Get them out here. Grab that drink, grab that girl, because we are live in your favorite mixes.
Then you gotta feel the vibe. Then you gotta feel the vibe.
Why was this track so successful in your career?
I have no idea. Like I
thought you'd give me like a big answer. Well, we were at this moment, we came up with this track, and it wasn't that good,
the funny story about that is I remember, oh God, I want to say it was like 2014, 2015, the night that I made it. Mm-hmm. I stayed over at the ex-girlfriend's house. She was passed out beside me, and I was staying up till like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and like I just had a headset on, sitting there with my laptop on my crotch, just sitting there building. Like it's crazy because like there'd be nights where like I would stay up till 8 o'clock in the morning, and she was getting up, I was going to bed, and like it makes me think of those times.
What did Nick Fury mean to your career?
Oh, he's like a big essential part of me DJing. If it wouldn't be for him, I probably would have never learned DJing. I was always more like when my brother used to DJ back in the day, we used to do like kind of like the wedding style format and play off of media players and stuff like that and some CD oriented stuff. And it just wasn't for me within that time frame. So like I was more of the break dancer. So like I would go out and try to hype up the crowds, get them on the dance floor, do things of that nature. Meeting Nick Fury changed my life a lot. He helped educate me on how to beat match, and then like what I could do to create like a brand, a logo, and how to market myself in different ways, and how to record mixes. And then like what really evolved it for me was when he'd be like, hey, why don't you start traveling outside of the area? Like he got me my first ever headline booking in Pittsburgh, and it was at Winghart's on Carson Street, which, mind you, still has like the best chicken sandwich I've ever
talked
had.
About in the past that you were basically just doing like sports bars, and then you were able to make that, transition to where you got yourself out there. And this is another track that you remixed. Obviously, everybody knows this one. When Dove's
that was hard to make.
And yes, CTK, it's a Dove's Cry remix.
Why do we scream at each other? This is what it sounds like when the doves cry.
How'd you get the atmosphere like that? How did you make the sound expand here? It felt like that you made this track expand more than the original version, which is dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
This made this expand. Talk about how you made this song expand.
All right, so this was like 11 or 12-day project to do. Like it was a nightmare. It was probably the hardest project I've ever made.
Really?
Out of everything that I've made. Like so I had to get the acapella first, which to find the right kind of acapella with and have it polished to the right levels to start with the project was a nightmare. Like I had to get an acapella and then I had to remaster the acapella straight out of the gate.
Oh my god.
So what I did was I took the acapella, I tried to polish it and remaster it, and then I sent it out to Cyborg Records, which they made me a deal that they would remaster it for free for me.
Yeah, I
was
heard
like,
you
okay.
talk about that. There were DJs that you were working with that had got deals. So I heard you talk about that.
Yeah. I'll work with anybody, honestly. Like I like working with like singers, songwriters, fellow DJs, producers, collabs. Ironically, like when I first got into pro wrestling, there was a dubstep track that I used to use that I collabed with Excision on. And so like I ended up using that for like my heel stuff when I debuted through AON and stuff before I started evolving who I am. But like music has always been an essential part of my life one way or another. And then like right now, my babyface entrance music is a local band from around here called Easy Tiger Twin Flames. So like I try to support the local community.
Yeah, I've heard some guys have done that. One of my guys who's in the Hall of Fame alongside you now is Bentley, and his music is done by a local band in the UK, and they did his music, and he got the rights to use it. R.P. Davis also, his music is done by a British rapper, if I'm not mistaken, and I always appreciate when people do it. Did you know that this track was going to be as big as it was on YouTube?
I was hoping, honestly, just because like I'm a big fan of Prince and Michael Jackson. Like I've always thought that them as artists, they've always knew how to brand themselves, how to market and create things differently as opposed to being complacent. Prince was a generational talent,
for sure,
to me anyway. Like so,
I
like
have a friend of mine who's a big Prince person. He DJs a little bit in Manhattan, and he swears by. I've known him for 14, 15 years, and he was like, when Prince died, he was like, just like in mourning. I mean,
oh yeah, that was me with James Brown. Like that hit home hard. Because like James Brown was another big influence for me. Like he was the reason why I got into breakdancing. And so like with this Prince thing, like I had a generalized idea of what I wanted to do, and I was spinning like a lot of electro house oriented stuff at the time, and I wanted to be able to like a former DJ that I used to run around with. He laid out the challenge to me. He's like, I'm gonna come up with some ideas, or maybe I can even come up with like bringing you acapellas and see if you can modernize them and add your own touch on it. So like that took me 11 days to do, and it was rough.
And that's your setup there for those that are actually. This is a professional setup, by the way. Just wanted to put that out there for the.
This was it's an expensive setup.
Oh, I could tell. This looks like 5 figures you spent easily.
Yeah.
I want to say a little bit to Joshua Allen, who said, looking forward to the Michael Jackson biopic next year. He's also the owner of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. And Mr. Allen, if if anybody's out there, you listen, if you're IMF, if you're DTW, if you're any company out there, you want live music, you want to bring some parties to your ring and to your actions, go hire and book DJ Dirty White Boy.
Yeah, I'll spin sets during the intermission, whatever. If you really want to challenge me, give me like an SD card of like entrance music and see if I can like mix an entire show. Like,
go for it.
Like I've been trying to brainstorm some ideas like that. Like,
go ahead.
But yeah, like that was like another one of my favorite sets. Like electro house style stuff like that. It's like it's what I was more raised on. That's what I broke into. And like Nick Fury was always like, "You're a breakdancer. Why are you not spinning break beats?" And I was like, I don't know. I just didn't connect with it within the time. But now that I'm older, I can appreciate it on a different level. And where I'm at artistically as an artist, like I can speed mix that and UK Garage. Like I love UK Garage.
Yeah, like, we talked about that the first time, and I know a little bit about that because I have on my internet radio station 2 DJs. DJ Slip. Well, I say 1.5. I have another one. He's basically hasn't spun for me in 2 years, but I have a DJ here that 80 and 80s spin basically every few months he comes on. He's big into UK Garage. That I know from him.
The way I try to mix, I try to design it off DJ Easy from the UK meets Honey Dijon from Chicago. She's a monster. She takes acapellas and she'll layer them over top of like multi tracks, and like she'll tease with an acapella, and then she'll bring in beats over top of it, and just like, oh, it's so funky. It's so good.
That is
very
cool.
Like if you ever get bored, check out DJ Honey Dijon, her one set from Sugar Mountain. Absolutely my favorite. Like I was just listening to it at work the other day again. Like that's how good it's been. Like even after all these years, like it still holds up. It's so amazing.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, let me get to some comments here. Mr. C2K is a big fan of Michael Jackson and Prince. He spelled it wrong, but he meant to say Billie Jean and When Doves Cry. Yes, Billie Jean is from Thriller. I think Thriller is still the highest selling album in music history. Mr. Joshua Allen wants to say a lot of guitar players over the years, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, obviously, God rest his soul. He's been listening to Jeff Buckley lately. Obviously, a lot of DJs like to use Jimi Hendrix music, obviously, because famously there's a song that a lot of DJs like to use called Machine Gun, because it has that DJ almost like that mixing riff, that ba-na-na, ba-na-ba, ba-na-na. So a lot of DJs like to incorporate, a lot of hip hop songs have incorporated Jimi Hendrix for sure. And even a little known fact, the original from Van Halen, I think it's Atomic Punk, is actually, no, it's Jamie's Crying is actually in Tone Loc's Wild Thing. Wow, wow, wow. Comes from Jamie's Crying. So a lot of guitarists, actually their songs or their riffs are actually used in DJ's material there. So I wanted to present to you some, obviously for the audience, a little different. So maybe next time you come on, we'll play more of the music. And I wanted to get a chance to showcase who you are, and obviously coming back to that. Also, if you're out here for the first time, again, I'd like to make sure you follow Mr. Loveless. Follow him in all those platforms. TikTok is actually at Andrew.Loveless8. I couldn't fit the 200 characters, so his TikTok is at Andrew.Loveless88. Facebook, Andrew Loveless. YouTube is at, again, Be All Andrew Loveless. Also, DJ Dirty White Boy 9494. Also, Mixcloud. You can also get him on Instagram at _B_all_Andrew_Loveless if you'd like to get in touch with him and maybe book him on your wrestling show. So if you're a TBW, if you're IMF, WCE, XCW, whatever company you are out there, you listen to us, whether it's New Underground Wrestling, whether it's GTS, yes, GTS, Pro Wrestling Venom, DBW, EBW, Amplified Wrestling, Mr. Van Hansen, and Mr. Kid Mike at Enterprise. Certainly make sure Andrew Loveless will bring the party to your show and make sure you have a lively time. Okay, so obviously we're coming up towards some final things here, and obviously we had a lot of fun tonight, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about a lot of different things. So what's the future ahead for you in the ring? Obviously, we got a chance to look back here, but we spoke a little bit tonight about still unfinished business with Mr. James. You spoke about Eric Black. You obviously talked about Lestat. But is there anything else coming up in the future for our audience that we should know about?
Right now, no. I'm open to book. Well, I'm traveling to 814 Wrestling in Altoona this weekend.
Okay.
I'm not on the show, but like I'm gonna go down, pay my dues, help with ring, network, and that's what it's really all about. Is like going there, studying your craft,
I'm so
Like,
glad you said that because I was speaking with
you,
Mr. Castelli, by the way, and he posted a picture on his Facebook about setting up the ring for a show he was on, presumably DBW. And he and I were speaking off the air. And I said, I'm so glad you posted that because I look at setting the ring up as a way that it brings people together and it's a bond.
yeah,
It
it's a
gives
team
you a
effort.
bond. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yep. Yeah, I plan on going there, and then on the following weekend, I have a couple options, but I'm not quite sure yet as to where
Don't
I'm
tell
gonna
us
go.
what it'll be, or we don't know because somebody will say, well, you spoiled the announcement, you spoiled something else. So, yeah, I tell people at this point if you think you know something and you're not 100% sure, don't say it on Sportswire
Yeah,
because I can assure
yeah.
you somebody will get back to me. But we can maybe see you at least help out at 814 this weekend. And I have no doubt now that we're going, even though it still doesn't quite feel like we're there, but we're getting closer to summer, which means we're going to have a lot of shows, a lot of different types of shows, whether it's shows at the mall, shows at a carnival, shows at a festival. And obviously, summer season heats up in the world of wrestling that you're going to be booked on some shows, and hopefully, Enterprise and Amplified will return. And we can
I
see you
hope.
back out there again because I'm waiting to talk about Enterprise and Amplified. I'm kind of chomping at the bit almost to talk about them again. Bring everybody back,
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't
me
know.
too.
Mr. Hansen's
Like
on the
I want to do some more matches with them. I also want to. I'd like to be able to get a match with 814 Wrestling down the line. MVP
yes.
down there. Yeah, yeah. Like that, they're on my goal list as well. So yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to rack up more matches, more experience, more education. Like I want to become a better asset to any locker room I step into.
Oh, I have no doubt that you're going to be a great asset. You're already a great asset. You're an asset for this platform because you're not only in my Hall of Fame, you're my official DJ of Sportswire. So I'm going to bring you back probably every so often so we can spin some tunes and
Yeah,
you can talk about the memories because I think that'd be kind of fun. And I also
yeah.
wanted to ask you, speaking of that, I had to bring it up. What did DJ Stabby mean to you?
Stabby was everything, man.
I got to
Like,
bring him up. You obviously did a
yeah,
tribute for him, and he
yeah.
was big into you breaking it in. Talk to me about him.
Stabby was everything, man. Like he was a golden spirit. Like every time I saw that kid, like he was always smiling. Like he was like the ultimate best friend that you could ever dream of. Like he was just positive energy and nothing but like pure light. Like this kid was amazing. I remember me, him, and Nick Fury going out to his trailer, and his living room is a lot like mine, where like he would have like a wall of speakers, and then he would have the DJ set up, and he would have Tech 1200 turntables, and he was running off of Serato, and he was a happy hardcore DJ.
Yeah, I know
And
you had
I
mentioned that in your when you did your track tribute to him. You had mentioned that you
yeah,
went and did happy hardcore, which you normally don't do. You're more of a drum and bass, more
yeah.
of an electro guy.
Like I'm more of a house and trance kind of guy.
Okay.
But as I got older, I started doing breaks. When he passed, like I felt like it was the right thing to do. Is like I had to challenge myself and my skills, my techniques to try to do a happy hardcore set for him, because he he was like another great peer to me. Like he took time out of his day. Like most DJs, like whenever it comes to turntables, they're very traditional. They're like you don't touch another man's equipment. Like
Yep. Oh,
it's
I've heard that
very
before. I've heard that
yeah,
before.
yeah.
That I know.
And so like when it comes to a turntable, it's 20 times more territorial because of how easy the needles break on those things. He's like, yeah, man, just go ahead, just go do it. And then he would teach me the fundamentals of like he'd be like, okay, like how most house tracks would have either a 30-second intro, 45-second, or a 1-minute intro before the vocals would kick in. With that, it's more high energy and it's actually double time. So like your intros would be like 22 seconds, between 19 and 22 seconds. So you would
Okay.
have to learn to speed mix a lot faster. And
Mm.
so like that was biting off more than I could chew when I first started out. Like I was terrified. So like I was more slow, traditional groove kind of guy. And like he would take time out of his day and just teach me that kind of stuff. And so like anytime I think of Stabby, like I can't help but smile, man. Like that dude was just absolutely amazing. And the DJ world is not the same without him, for sure. Like he was an uncrowned treasure for the entire underground scene, for sure.
It's tough when somebody that made an impact but could have made more of an impact leaves us at such a young age. And you've dealt with this, obviously, with your brother and Stabby,
Yeah.
what he meant to you. And, I know we spoke about your brother, but what does Stabby motivate you in all your life? I mean, I know,
Oh,
he
yeah.
didn't have the reference in wrestling, but I mean, how does he motivate you today in what you want to do?
Stabby is like that internal fire. So like anytime that like I doubt myself, like it's the equivalent of like me looking at my brother's mask that I said at the last thing.
Yep.
Like for me, I have his original platters that he's invested all of his sweat and energy into that I actually have hanging up on the wall right there. And so like anytime that like I look at those, like man, that just inspires me to push myself even harder as an artist. Like even if it's production stuff, if it's mixing, like it just makes me reach out of that comfort zone to challenge myself on different levels and research things that like I would never draw inspiration from. That's stuff that like if I'm drawing like trying to do a certain style set, and like a few years ago I went out of my way to the point of start studying French core, which is 300 BPM.
I saw you actually put that on your YouTube channel. I actually listened to some of that a couple days ago, and I was like, wow, that was like very
It's
interesting.
wild. It's like ADHD DJ mixing.
Sounds like most of
it,
the guests that come on Sportswire.
so like
I'm only kidding.
the last 6 months of Stabby's life, our goal was we were gonna do a dream tag set out at Barnaroo, which is like
I know Bonnaroo. I definitely have heard of Bonnaroo. Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
So like he was gonna do his happy hardcore, and I was gonna bring French core to America and for us to do like a wild tag set that nobody's ever experienced. And that's where I first started studying things. And then that's when the car accident happened on I-80. This lady, she was all drugged up and she ended up going up the wrong one way and ended up boom.
What a shocker. That was this, listen, unfortunately, we read this all too often. Somebody, all they had to do was take an Uber or just called somebody and said, hey, can I, can I?
But from the story that I heard for closure, he was selfless. There was a last minute decision where like she was coming and he hurried up and turned the car. So the driver's door took most of the impact. He ended up dying on the scene. His girl and her kid and a fellow artist that was traveling with them barely survived. But when they all came to, they found out about Stabby and they were heartbroken.
Oh,
When I found out about that, I reached out. I didn't even know his girl at the time. Like I reached out to her and I was like, "Hey, I know it for what it's worth. Like I used to DJ with Stabby. Anytime you miss him, like I'll play happy hardcore just so this way I could try to bring up your spirits a little bit." So like I would do that for about 6-8 months to try to help her work through things.
Well, I don't know if I should or shouldn't put this out there, but I will because I always feel like if I could do something, there's anything I could ever do to honor this man, honor his legacy. If you'd like to let the family know, I would certainly be more than happy to do that. I feel that in many ways, this was a man that he made others' lives better. And he was
Yeah.
kind of, in many ways, the normal person who had the extraordinary talents. And, if there was something I could ever do, whether it's playing the music on air or just doing something to recognize DJ
If
Stabby.
anybody that watches this, if you want to honor him the correct way, go to YouTube, type in Stabby the Pleasure Pusher.
Okay. I will
And,
sub.
and
I will sub, and I will listen to it because I have two
yeah,
channels on YouTube. I
yeah,
will subscribe on both.
follow his stuff, like his stuff, like blow up that channel, man. That's the best way we can honor him.
Fair. Let me ask you before we get to closing thoughts, and we are here obviously with the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Mr. Andrew Loveless. He is also DJ Dirty White Boy, and I guess maybe in a previous sort of still life, and he is also our official DJ of Sportswire Radio, and we'll certainly bring him on in the future to maybe play some of these tracks and go down there because I was having fun actually doing that on sports. So people have asked me to do different things. I've called matches on the air, I've done different things, and I had a lot of fun. Somebody asked me the other day, you're like, how do you keep Sportswire relevant and fresh? And I said, well, you just wait and see. And you were kind of actually what I had in mind. So actually, I was like, let me not tip my hand. And also want to say hello to Mr. Dirty Donnie. Dirty's also in our Hall of Fame. He says, what is up, my man? Obviously, good to see you, Mr. Dirty. And C2K will definitely check him out. Thank you very much for that. So let me ask you then this before I get to closing thoughts. And I know I've talked a lot about the DJing tonight. I know we spoke a little bit about wrestling at the beginning, but when it comes to, let's say, your friends and peers in the DJ world, do they give you ever advice in the wrestling world? Is there ever any talk or interest in that? I'm just curious. I know we spoke a little bit about it before, but now that you're obviously ventured into it, do you
Yeah,
get
there's a select few, like Nick Fury. Like he's loved pro wrestling for like forever because he's been friends. He grew up with Facade down in Pittsburgh,
okay?
and so like that's how I first met Facade. Was I was DJing, and
Wow.
him and Danny Moe ended up showing up there at East Side Sports Bar one night when they were working Clearfield for IWC Wrestling.
Okay. Yes, I heard about
And,
WC. I have actually heard.
yeah, yeah, which is phenomenal company, and
Absolutely.
they they hit up Nick and they stopped in and checked him out. We all just kind of like vibed and hit off. And so like anytime I can hit them guys up or I'll surprise them and I'll find out that, hey, Facade and them are going to be out. Actually, Facade and Danny are going to be out at May 31st for Big Time Wrestling there in Altoona, PA.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to go down directly after work. I plan on helping work that show in some capacity, and surprise those guys and see them guys. It's always nice catching up with them.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And, obviously, somebody with that stature and is able to, obviously help in terms of, maybe another connection. That's all it's about to me, networking. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
I feel like the biggest responsibility is all about networking. And if you can network, that's all that matters. And I think that obviously, you're going to definitely do a lot of great things in way. And I have no doubt that, we're going to certainly see more of you in the ring. And I think when you come back on, I'm sure we'll speak about a lot more ahead in the future with you, because I know for sure that this is not the be all end all. We have a lot more to talk about in the future. And I was enjoying the music. I definitely want to say, if you're out there, check out Andrew's music. It definitely rips. It definitely is banging. And we definitely know that we have the best DJ around. That is Mr. Andrew Loveless. So he'll say, obviously, Nick and obviously Stabby were better, but we got Andrew. So that's all I need. What do you want to say to anybody else here before closing thoughts? Anything else you want to share with the audience before we say sayonara?
Thank you for putting me into the Hall of Fame. It's a major honor.
You definitely deserve it.
And I appreciate everything that you do for any of the artists here, any wrestlers. Like This platform is by far phenomenal. It's above and beyond.
I appreciate that because I know you've done some podcasts before. I think we were speaking about this off the edit, and you were on a podcast. All I did was ask you about like WWE and like TNA, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm going to say it on there because you know what? I have been saying this all the time, and I have been known for basically shooting off my tongue. You can say nothing on this, say nothing, just stay quiet before closing thoughts. I am tired of all these podcasters that invite wrestlers to come on their podcast and don't know anything about them and want to bring them on. And then like all they do is ask them about WWE. So let me get this straight here. You have a podcast, you ask somebody to come on, but you don't talk about anything they're doing. Now, clearly you shouldn't be in business. You shouldn't have any podcast. And you're not only wasting the wrestler's time, you're embarrassing yourself. So seriously, I'm actually going to go on the record of this. You are a prospective podcaster. You're a podcaster out there. You want to interview a backyard wrestler, an underground wrestler, an independent wrestler, pro wrestler. I don't even know what the terms are at this point. I just say it's all wrestling matters here. Seriously, for the love of God, make sure if you're going to bring the person on, talk about them because I am sick and tired of hearing people, well, what was your favorite storyline? How would you book this? I actually don't care. I don't care. I want to hear the wrestler come on and talk about their story, their journey, or at least watch a match or two. And you know, it's embarrassing and it's abominable for all these podcasts that quote unquote say, yeah, we're podcasts. So they can say nothing on this. I want you to say nothing because I don't want you to lose a booking over this. But I'm going to say it because I'm with a microphone and this could be a loaded 15-minute rant. It won't be, I promise you. But here's what it comes down to. If you are out there, all you have to do, if you quote unquote have a podcast, because you obviously went out there, you invested in the microphone, you invested in whatever other equipment, all you have to do, whether it's Andrew Loveless or anybody else that comes on the platform, is to do a very simple YouTube search. YouTube,
Do your
put the
homework.
name Andrew Loveless, and you can watch some of their matches, talk about them instead of talking about WWE. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear Andrew Loveless. So, you know what? And if
I
you
can
don't,
talk TNA all day long. I'm not gonna lie.
but my platform is different because my platform actually doesn't really want to hear that. My audience is more
Right.
like your peers are listening to this, so that's really what it
I
comes down
agree.
to. So at the end of the day, though, and I have no doubt your knowledge of pro wrestling is far exceeds mine, and that's fantastic. And I applaud you for that. You're a pro wrestler. I expect that. But I'm here for you, and I will say this one more thing on this rant. If you are actually in a podcast or you have a podcast and you actually just want to interview these people and you actually don't have or you have need questions, you can actually honestly go out of my way and actually help you out with this. But even further, I'll even go the other way. If you actually have a podcast and you want to interview a wrestler and you don't know what you're doing, actually that's good for me because then we'll just take them all here on Sportswire because as you know, this is the place of all wrestling matters, and I am considered to be the voice of all wrestling. I am your voice where all wrestling matters. So at the end of the day, that was my rant. It was a more tame rant compared to yesterday, more some recent rants
I
on
love
Sportswire
it.
Radio. And
Somebody needs to reality check some of these people.
some of these, I got it. Judgment did a podcast, and I'm going to say it. Van Hansen did a podcast with Kid Mike the other day, and they were talking and they watched a match that they weren't even in the ring with. And, Judgment did a podcast with a British guy and, it was like, didn't even talk to him about anything. Then my guys in the UK did a podcast with the guy. And what they asked them was quote unquote, fantasy SmackDown booking. It was like, seriously, fantasy SmackDown booking? First of all, I wouldn't even book SmackDown if my life depended on it. Secondly, I don't even want to hear some wrestler talk about SmackDown booking when I want to hear about what they're up to. It's almost like if I go to the movies and I go see a certain movie and instead I get Saturday morning cartoons, well, obviously that's intellectually dishonest, and clearly you should not have a podcast. You should go back to maybe wanking off to SmackDown itself and instead of being on SmackDown. So, and I'm not any C2K, I'm not a mentor, but I'm just telling you straight up facts. So that's any podcast out there. So all I'm going to say, again, I'm trying to be very
The independent scene is so much more exciting than some of the big league stuff.
Absolutely. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I do a Friday night show. And yes, we recap Raw, we recap SmackDown. I do that because I have an audience, I have guys that get on the platform. But honestly, for me,
I'm more interested in independent wrestling. I'm more interested in backyard wrestling. I'm more interested in underground wrestling. I'm more interested in hardcore deathmatch wrestling. I mean, so I want to hear that. I watch that stuff. So for me to sit there and hear some nobody, some Johnny come lately interview you, and again, I don't mean to shoot too much on the guy. I forgot the guy's name, but the point is that, to have some Johnny come lately interview you and other of your peers about like things that you're not doing anything with, it to me is almost like just it doesn't even make sense, and you're intellectually dishonest. And as a matter of fact, you shouldn't be called a podcaster. You're more of a fraud, you're more of a fake, and you're more of really somebody that should go back to just being a fanboy wanking off. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's just what I think, because I hear it all too often. Too many people come on my platform and say, yeah, you're the only one that's this. You're the only one that's that. And guys, and again, I don't mean to take away spot. We're putting you in the Hall of Fame today. You're the official DJ of Sportswire Radio. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to get that off my chest because it's been bothering me.
I'm glad you did, because I love people that shoot like that. Like,
I've done that a lot the last month, and actually the whole year I've been doing that. I wouldn't say you wouldn't have liked all my shoots, but this one, I really,
I love it.
Well,
like I tell my buddy Richie, I'm like, just shoot, just tell it like it is. I don't care.
Well,
Like,
I gotta
there's
be
no
honest.
reason to sugarcoat nothing. Like,
yeah, no, listen, I mean, and I don't think I think Dirty was talking about C2K because I think because Dirty does a new podcast, but it's nothing to do with this. Dirty's doing actually a funny podcast. It's almost he's becoming like the new Opie and Anthony or Howard Stern or Dirty Donnie.
nice.
In the chats. Yeah, Dirty Donnie's a great guy. He's in my Hall of Fame, and he's really far better talker than I am. But I just wanted to say in general for the wrestling podcast, all these guys that have podcasts overseas and elsewhere. And then I had on it was Sinner, who was Nick Kern, aka Nick Kern. You probably know him, Redemption Championship Wrestling, and he did a podcast. And they were asking him about like WWE like busted open comments. It was like seriously. I mean, I was listening to Sinner, and again, he's Nicky the Gooch in VTW. He's been a part of the circuit. You've probably seen him, probably shared a locker room with him. Point is that he did a podcast months ago before he came onto mine, and he was talking about busted open. And I was asking him, like, off the air, I'm like, why were you invited on a podcast? And they were talking to you about busted open. I was looking to hear your story, and he was like, it just happens all too often. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. So I want to make sure when you come on a Sportswire that's not going to happen, because I want to talk about what you're up to. And I want to let you know if there's any podcast out there that doesn't want you, you come here anytime, and I'll make sure I'll expose them because they are a fraud and they are dishonest. And I just wanted to get that off my chest. So sorry to take away your spotlight there.
Since we're talking big league stuff, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me 1,000 questions. You can ask me anything you want, and I have no problems answering because I come from the world of politics, so I'm used to having.
So me and Richie, we were studying tape the other night, and we started talking about we were talking about Alex Shelley.
Yes, Alex Shelley, Motor City Machine Guns. Yep.
Yeah. What's your entire thought process on him and his history, his career?
I think that his career is very underrated because I think that he had a fantastic. He had a fantastic run in when TNA was sort of in the old Fox Sports Net days, going into Spike TV. But there was a period of time where obviously him and Saban kind of went away. He certainly had a revival in his career. Now, he had the TNA championship, GCW he was a part of. But I think when you look at his career overall, it's probably a very underrated career because of the main reason why. Very simple, because he never had a run in WWE. And guys that don't have runs in WWE a lot of times get overlooked. And if you looked at his body...
stamp doesn't mean anything.
What's that?
To me. The WWE stamp doesn't mean anything.
But a lot of
his body of work, like if it wouldn't have been for injuries between him and Saban and stuff, like I feel like that man has never got the flowers that he deserves.
But a lot of the average Johnny come latelys, the average, let's say, holier than thou, smart aleck wrestling fan, in some form or another, looks at it and say, you have to be in WWE once. That's the problem. You have to have the one. I agree with you. To me, I mean, a guy I know very well,
Alexander. A glorified stamp in my world. That's the way I see it.
And many guys have gone to WWE and they didn't do really anything of note. I mean, listen,
They
Bobby.
saturate you and then they shove you out the door.
Listen, James Storm, and even though Bobby Roode's had a career as an agent, but their runs in WWE, I mean, Storm's was next to nothing. Rude was okay.
Chris Harris.
Who had,
That's all I'm gonna say. Like,
all he had, he had a brief moment with Roddy Piper. That's pretty much it, right? Was it Roddy Piper he had that run with in WWE? That very brief moment. Oh no,
I didn't even see that.
Okay,
The most I seen was like him and Kazarian. Those both guys, they only pretty much really got used
no, that was
for.
that was Sean O'Hare. Okay, Chris Harris. Yes, you're correct. He had the brief run with Frankie with very very tiny run. And another example is EC3. EC3 had a fantastic career in TNA and other places, but in WWE, it was what it was. It was unfortunately, some people don't break into that company, but I think going back to Alex Shelley, he had a fantastic career in TNA. He's a TNA Hall of Famer, but a lot of people probably look at his body of work and they don't know a lot about it because he didn't have that run there. And listen, AJ Styles, until he came to WWE, I don't think he finally got his full flowers, even though, his work was far better in TNA.
It was phenomenal.
Light years better in TNA, and even the Japan work with the Bullet Club. But unfortunately, what happens is people feel like you have to have that one run in the mothership. But his run, listen, Alex Shelley, phenomenal talent. He had some great work. I was a fan of TNA going back to when I was a kid coming home from school, watching them on Fox Sports Net here in New York.
Yeah.
Then they got the deal on Spike TV where Sting officially came into the company, and then they were off to the races. But I was a fan of TNA. So if you're asking me just off the top, that's my answer to you on Alex Shelley.
I popped this year when he actually won the world title. I was like, it's about time. It took them way too long to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, I think he did have a decent singles run, but he was also a part of that whole X division. The X division was groundbreaking in TNA. You think about that whole X division, with the 6 sides of steel, that whole era there. TNA, I think, should get more flowers than it has. I mean, I think it's kind of gotten a little bit of it recently, but in terms of what that company did in developing talent, obviously Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Beer Money,
Christopher Daniels.
Christopher Daniels, obviously the Canadian Destroyer, Petey Williams, Scott D'Amore before he became, on the backstage end of it. Obviously, Kurt Angle had his best work in my opinion in TNA. Kurt Angle had. It was in the prime of his career in TNA. I mean, you go up and down the list of some phenomenal talent that were in TNA, and TNA did a great job. But they brought Hogan and Bischoff in. The company kind of, unfortunately, went south a little bit. There was financial decisions that happened, and Drew McIntyre's career was restarted in TNA. Jeff Hardy had a great run in TNA. Matt Hardy maybe had his best singles work in TNA. So TNA, to me, listen, had fantastic work. Scott Steiner was there for a long time. So listen, TNA. So you can ask me anything you want. I'll ask 100. You can ask me 100,000. Yeah, answer your question.
We were on the great debate about Alex Shelley, so I always love to hear another person's perspective on it.
No, I was a fan. I enjoyed Motor City Machine Guns. I even remember when Kevin Nash was kind of mentoring them for a while. So on TNA.
Oh yeah.
So because I know my wrestling. I mean, yes, all I do is watch Backyard Independent, but yes, I do watch it. So yes, that was my question.
I enjoyed his baby bear gimmick. Like when he first came into the X division with the camera.
Yep.
And he would work at European style versus American style. Like
I do remember that. Yes, I do.
I was a sucker for that. Like just watching him work was a thing of beauty.
I would have loved to have seen him wrestle, and I know they didn't really overlap. I would have loved to have seen him wrestle X-Pac. I think that would have been, some really, in the prime of his career. You put those two because I think they had a similar body style. I think with their in-ring abilities, I think obviously Waltman was in TNA, but when he was in TNA a couple times, he was really finished. But I think if you would have put him in his prime with Shelley in his prime, I think that would have been, some fantastic work, some fantastic matches. But,
Sean's best stuff was when he was the 1-2-3 kid, when he was segueing from Japan and coming back into the States.
Well,
I think it's been 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, Waltman's best match is the one he had with Bret Hart on Raw in July 1994. That's his best match of his career. I mean, that's the match, but he had too many injuries. He had too many drugs, injuries, too many unfortunately, he was a shell of himself. I mean, he had some okay moments as X-Pac, but you didn't get the wrestler you had as 1-2-3 Kid. And when the time he came into TNA, he was past his prime. At that point, he was just, unfortunately, it was what it was. That's all too often the tales of wrestling. Guys,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of drugs, a lot of partying, like on Sportswire. Guys come on here, drugs, and I'm only kidding. It's a joke. It's just a joke. It's a
No,
joke.
no.
It's a joke. But all right. So you know what? Obviously, we had a lot of fun. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. We'll definitely do this again, maybe sometime next month in June. I would like to bring you back. We'll play some tunes, have some music, and maybe you'll talk about some matches that I can talk about on the air. And if I'm lucky enough, it's a non-unlisted match. I can play it on the air and maybe do some commentary of yours, because that's something I've been doing a little bit on Sportswire. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And speaking of people that just missed the party, Mr. Anthony Steele, who was last night shooting then in his real name. But Anthony, you missed the show earlier because I was actually playing some live music. So Anthony, if you liked house and DJ music, Andrew Loveless is also a DJ. He's also our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He's also our official DJ of Sportswire Radio. You can also check him out, and he plays music. He's done a lot of great things inside the ring and outside the ring, and that's his information. But Andrew, I want to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, be my guest.
I have nothing else to say, but thank you. Thank you for everything.
Oh God, boy! When people say that, it's almost like it's. I was speaking to a friend of mine in California today, and when they say things like that, it's usually, "Oh boy, it's too good to be true." What's the catch? I'm always okay,
just genuine thank you.
Oh well, of course, my pleasure, and I will certainly send you these things through electronic email. And ladies and gentlemen, that is our newest member of the Sportswire Radio.
When I get down, I got something I'm sending you too.
I appreciate that. And, today, by the way, I could give a shout out to my good friend, Mr. Radu Bulat. Mr. Bulat obviously gave me this shirt on the air. He's a UK deathmatch hardcore legend expert. And I'm going to make sure when we're off the air, I'm going to tag Mr. Controversy and specifically actually message Mr. Controversy about you, because I owe Mr. Controversy a chat. So I'm going to make sure that I do my best to see if I can make that match happen for you, because I'm sure that there's a promoter or two that would book that match. And I also want to say,
best.
I will when we're off the air. And Dirty Donnie said he wasn't talking about me earlier, but C2K, thank you very much for that. And thank you, C2K, for tuning in. And we're here on Sportswire Radio inducting our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Mr. Andrew Loveless. He is definitely not the be-all, end-all, because he's the man that's going to be here more often than Sportswire Radio. This was not the end-all here, but he is also an accomplished DJ. He's a great wrestler. He was a part of, obviously, one of the most successful tag teams in Enterprise wrestling history, of course, with Violent Love. They held those tag team championships until his stupid tag team partner, Mr. James, did a bad move there. But obviously, we'll see what the future brings inside the ring and more. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. World Wrestling Matters here. If you're on Sportswire Radio, I'm here tomorrow, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with Xavier Thorne. Speaking of lively conversations, Xavier Thorne. He'll have a lot to say. But until then, be there or be square, and all wrestling matters. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Andrew Loveless, for all that you do. You are the true definition of what our good friend here on Sportswire Radio, Hillbilly Tilly, would say is that true wrestlers do it for the love of this sport of wrestling. You have definitely done that. You are a normal person that has done extraordinary things. Thank you for all that you do, and we'll talk with you very soon.